Hello, mentally defective friends. Welcome to another episode of Metal Dude. I'm your host, Chuck Parnell. With me, as always, the Ren to my Stimpy.
Mick Rotella. Hello, lovelies!
Still can't figure out if he's American or English.
I'm kind of in between. Depends on how much sixpence I have and pounds. I don't even know what that means, to be honest with you. I couldn't figure out.
It makes no sense.
They're in euros now anyway, so I'd be losing all kinds of cash. I try to think like I know what I'm talking about, and I don't. Sorry. Offending all kinds of British people.
Well, there goes our English, our European tour now, because you can't screwing everything
Wait a minute,
up.
offending the British. Usually I'm just offending Americans, so I'm going global with it, so it shouldn't really matter, right?
Exactly.
I'm sorry. What are we talking about this week?
Well, in case you're not familiar with the show, what it is, basically discussion of hard rock, metal, and punk bands, mainstream, local, unsigned, unknown, deep down in the ruts, and anything else in between that we can come up with that fits the profile. Tonight, our topic's the band Megadeth.
Megadeth.
Dave Mustaine of, former Metallica fame, I guess?
Was he in that band? I never knew that.
Yes.
He's still bitching about that to this day, right?
No. Last few years, I think he's kind of tamed.
He's let it go?
He's calmed down and let it roll, yep.
Let it roll, okay, yeah.
That's the one thing that I always says, like, dude, there's nothing wrong with being number two.
Well, I mean, look at what band you were in, and then look what band you are in. You know, I mean, it's like Megadeth to me at different times. I mean, they really rivaled Metallica in many. Metallica might have been bigger technically, but I never thought they were a better band necessarily. And song-wise, I think they, it depends on song by song. But I mean, come on, dude. I mean, you can't be that bitter about it.
No.
I mean, he still got everything he wanted. And what's the story? Something about as he got kicked out of Metallica and was on his bus ride back, he came up with the name Megadeth and said, well, I'm going to be in a big band too. And he did it. I mean, nobody can dispute what he's done.
He got the name from some political pamphlet or brochure that he saw, and they were talking about nuclear war, and they were
it means like millions of
city,
deaths by nuclear war or something like that.
Yep.
It's like,
he took out the A in death, and the rest is history.
Rock, yeah. Well, I mean, it would really be rock and roll if there was like a Z or an X in there someplace. But that was cool. You just take out the A. Maybe that was a little bit more thrash instead of, mainstream rock or whatever. But yeah, I mean, really, the guy has nothing to complain about. No. I mean, Megadeth. I mean, it's so one of the top big four thrash bands of all time. But I mean, you talk metal itself, Megadeth is at the top of the list as well.
Oh yeah.
And probably if you really think about it, might be about the most technically gifted metal band there was.
Yeah.
I mean, the players that have come in and out of that group were just phenomenal, top tier players, and not just for the sake of playing. I mean, really did well in that band.
That's something we should have looked up. How many people have been in Megadeth?
Oh God!
It's got to have the heaviest or the biggest rotation of members of probably any band ever.
No.
Except for maybe Alice Cooper.
No. There's other bands like LA Guns that had like in the dozens.
They really?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the famous ones that you know about.
Right.
Where that was like, they were like 30 into it at that point, and they're probably 50 into it by now. I mean, think about it. There's 2 LA Guns right now anyway. I mean,
that's
split
true.
off. So, but as far as popular bands like that, yeah, there's got to be. It's got to be way up there. And speaking of members in Megadeth, did you know Dimebag got the gig in that band once?
Yeah.
He was in there, but the only reason he didn't join is because he wanted Vinny with him, because they're like the Van Halen brothers, they're always together. And said he wouldn't go without him, and they had just hired, I think, Nick Menza.
Right.
I think so. I mean, can you imagine what that would have been like, Dimebag?
We also had the gig with Ozzy too, and it was the same scenario.
Did he?
He wanted Vinny, and I think it was Castillo was in, and they weren't going to get rid of Castillo.
That I actually did not know.
Yeah.
God, that would have been.
I believe he had this. Yeah, I believe it's the same story, same premise.
I don't think that would have went over as well. You know what I mean? I don't think he is more of a pop guy like Zach kind of comes in and out of, and Randy could have done.
Right.
He's more of raw in your face, which I think would have worked better with Megadeth.
Right.
Than and then Ozzy. But I mean, still, I mean, can you imagine just show me some demos? I'd love to hear what they did come up with. You know?
It'd be interesting to see it happen, and then Dave falls off, or climbs up on the wagon, cleans himself up, and you got like night and day. You got the born again straight guy, stop drinking, stop doing heroin, stop doing drugs, and you got like dude who's drunk 23 hours a day.
Yeah. Some of the best home videos I ever saw was from Pantera.
Oh yeah.
And we can't even discuss some of the things that they do. But I will say this: you remember the one where they try to get their like 300-pound bodyguard, paid him $5,000 to eat that whole cake. He gets about halfway, he's like, "I'm dead." He throws in the towel, and I'm like, "Good, you know."
Well, then don't they down like a whole bottle of Worcestershire or something? Oh. Tabasco sauce, they do it in an airport, killing time.
Okay, now we're drifting again, talking about everything else but Megadeth here. But yeah, I mean, as far as players go, God, you had Marty Friedman in there, Chris Broderick now, Sean Drover, was it Dover or Drover?
Drover. Chris Poland.
Yeah, Gar Samuelson. I mean, they just had some phenomenal, great players who did great things with that band, and
seem to have only had 2 bass players though ever, I think 2 or 3.
I believe it's 2, and
Ellefson and the other guy, and then
exactly couldn't even tell you who the other guy was because it just seems wrong without Ellefson. I mean, that was, even though it's more Dave Mustaine's band and his project, Ellefson was always there and part of it.
Oh yeah.
He always expected him to be there with him. I mean, that's his brother, And another, if you didn't know this, Dave Ellefson, Minnesota guy. He's from Jackson, Minnesota, or something like that.
I know he's Minnesotan.
Like he cares. He's gonna start. If he ever says start going, go Vikings. He's just full of stuff. Agitator is what you are.
Go Falcons.
Well, yeah, okay. So, it's cool that he's from there, and when do you think, or I should say, when was the first time you ever really heard Megadeth? What do you remember?
Well, being one of those '80s kids, watched MTV constantly. If I saw the video on Headbangers Ball or like their top 10 thing or whatever it is that they used to do. My first taste of Megadeth was Peace Sells, but Who's Buying? I
think I would agree with you. I was going to say the same thing. I think it was that video was the first thing, and that video would give you seizures if you watched it in a dark room when they start flashing all that stuff. Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
all the military stuff, all the war stuff, the missiles going around.
Remember that in the video?
Yeah. When Dad comes in, starts. Stop! What is this garbage you're watching? I want to watch the news.
He sees the news. Yeah, you're right with me. That was probably the first time I saw him.
Best part of that, did you notice when the kid goes to change the channel, he doesn't hit a button, doesn't grab a remote, he has to turn the dial.
I had a big UHF television like that too. UHF, turn the dial. We had the record player on the top. Anyway, veering again.
Big wooden cabinet.
Yeah, Curtis Mathis, I think it was.
Exactly. It was, I think, like I said, I was one of those '80s kids. And the only thing that the only band I can think of that I went out and bought based on just hearing it was Slayer's Rain and Blood. That's neither here nor there, but something I had to say. Saw Anthrax for Indians, ran out and bought Among the Living, thought it was great. Megadeth, Peace Sells, same ordeal. Now going back on Ellefson, did you ever hear how he met Dave?
Yeah.
How Dave met Dave?
Yeah. Yep.
He's what, thumping
Running with the devil.
Running with the devil.
They were in the same apartment building.
He's like below him, I think it was, and he's like stomping on the floor, getting pissed off, bitching at the guy.
Yeah.
And Ellefson's like, I'm a good, wholesome Minnesota boy. I didn't know that they did this stuff out here in L.A.
Well, and it was like, I think he had gotten into town like 2 days before.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine that you leave for Los Angeles to become a star, and you meet who you're going to have a career with the rest of your life.
By fighting.
Yeah, by fighting like 2 days into your...
Arguing about stuff.
Yeah, so, that's kind of... It's just kind of weird how those things work out like that. I mean, it just must have been, destiny. The thing about Megadeth for me was when I first saw them... So, Peace Sells, was that like 1986, somewhere time around there. I, at that moment, really wasn't into the thrash stuff. a huge amount. I mean, I did like Metallica, I did like Anthrax, but I wasn't in that just yet.
Right.
So I was kind of more into the I won't say glammy stuff, but more of the rocky stuff. Probably, more mainstream thing like that. And Megadeth, I think, for me, was one of those groups that kind of pulled me into the really heavy stuff because, I mean, man, that opening bass line for Peace Sells, I mean, it just grabs you by the throat, and it was like the rest of the record was kind of like that. It just did so much. So it kind of, pulled me into like, oh, there's not just this one thing. There's other things to get into as well. And so I really have to credit them with kind of opening me up to a little bit more than I really was into at that time. Because being like 15, it's like you're just like narrow scope.
The one album they have that I wish had more of a fan base, more spotlight on was So Far So Good So What.
One of my favorites.
I mean, I used to listen to this constantly, over and over and over. And I mean, it fits the song, but it's some of what I'd say the weirdest or oddest lyrics for 502. Full tank, pockets lined with cash. Full throttle, go arrest my ass, or something like that.
Dave must say he's kind of a trip in a way because he writes really good music. Obviously, just a really great riff writer, and I mean so much so that I hear that up till even the last couple records, Metallica still has tapes of him with the band, and they're kind of pulling those in here and there. I've heard a rumor. But he'll write great lyrics, and he's not what you would consider a massively great singer.
Right.
He's not a.
I don't know anybody who likes him for his voice.
But he's so unique, and he really does pull it off really well. You listen to the first record, and it's almost sketchy. Like, I don't know if this guy should be doing a whole lot.
Right.
But you listen to the later ones, and you could tell he's had lessons and grown into it, and he's gotten good at what he does. And I'm not saying he could sing everything else or anything else other than Megadeth.
Right.
But what he does is so unique and great. And it's basically just above a growl and under a scream. You know what I mean? So it makes them have that sound that is, that's Megadeth. You know that's Dave.
Oh yeah, his voice is very, very distinguishable.
And it's great. And even when they did kind of ballady things, like let's say a Tool of Moon and what was the one off of In My Darkest Hour, stuff like that, pulls that off well. Don't know if a lot of other bands could really do that, but somebody who knew the tools that they have and used them fully. And I think Dave is like that, and also able to recognize great guitar players.
Oh yeah,
and use them,
I think it was his biography. He was talking about Marty Friedman, and he just liked the guys playing, loved the guys playing, and just hated his hair.
Well, he hated the way he looked. He said he walked in platform shoes.
Yeah.
And Marty's a real short guy. I don't know. He's a weird cat now. If you know Marty now, he lives in Japan. He's got a Japanese wife, and he's like on Japanese game shows.
Huge.
Huge. And he still kind of is that weird kind of guy, but he's so unique, and I don't know if you ever heard this, that Mustaine tried to get him back.
Really?
Not all that long ago. He wanted, like the Holy Wars era musicians, and he wanted them, like him and Nick Menza, try to get them back, and they were just like, I'm on other things, and didn't want to do it. But
I'm surprised because I think he brought in Menza twice throughout the history of it, and then Menza's like drug and drinking when Dave cleaned up, and then he laid down the rules for the band. You'll be clean shaven every day. You'll dress appropriately. All this stuff.
NBA team,
I guess. Yeah, he had all sorts of rules. I guess once he cleaned up, and then I guess Nick Menza fell off the wagon a couple times, and then he got rid of him.
I had heard it was something about
Marty left on his own.
Yeah, Marty had if you guys didn't know, Marty had a successful career before Megadeth and after. So he didn't need to come back at all for any other reason other than he wanted to, and I think he kind of felt that.
Relive the rust in peace.
Yeah, he felt like, well,
days.
I did that, and that's cool. Now I'm on to something else. So that's why he never came back. So, but it'd be interesting, man, if just come back and play a couple shows or do something.
Do a one-off.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Broderick is great,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, we haven't heard anything from him yet that has been so defining as, you know, that era of
Right.
Megadeth. You know, and I'm not saying it can't be, but you
They're
know,
getting old now, though.
yeah, yeah, they're a little up there, but you know, and I wonder sometimes too, being that old, how long can they go playing that music?
Right.
You know, how long can you see 20 years from now Metallica playing Damage Incorporated, Disposable Heroes? You know,
I'd like to see this.
oh, they've even admitted, I don't know if we're going to be playing this too much longer. There might be a shelf life on us. You know, meanwhile, Kiss is playing in sold-out stadiums and, you know, doing all their thing.
Paul
you know.
Stanley looks like he can't even move.
Yeah, well,
I watched a couple of YouTube things on it. You mentioned it to me a while back, and I was kind of like, all right, well, now I'm going to check this out. And it's gone.
Yeah, you know.
Sad.
Yeah, well, he's love, God, give me a minute. You know, I mean, but I mean, look what they do. I mean, they're not like us where they're just sitting there talking about. Oh, I think what we should talk about tonight is, you know, I mean, these guys are running around doing all kinds of stuff. You know,
Right.
maybe they've set the bar too high. Maybe aim lower, and you could have had a longer career. I don't know. They're all like 80 anyway, so.
To go back on the Metallica Megadeth thing, you know when In My Darkest Hour was written?
I don't.
It was the day that Cliff died.
Oh.
He wrote it then.
Oh,
So I
really?
always heard that he wrote it that day.
Wow.
And then of course the lyrics don't have anything to do with it, but the music, I guess, was written that day.
It was like, I remember when that song came out, it was so stunning because I'm like, God, this is like a thrash ballad.
Yep.
Weird, but it's not sappy. It's not about a girl. It's not about getting laid. You know, and it fit. You know, we're talking about you were talking about a little bit ago about So Far So Good So What. That was one of those records that it was just different than anything out there. You know, the song Liar, which is one of my favorite, kind of had that. I don't want to say rap part in it because it's not rap at all.
No.
But just the way the lyrics come and it's so rhythmic and fast. There was
All in one
nothing
breath.
like that. Yeah. And it's just, it just works so well, you know. And of course, Anarchy in the UK was on that.
Right.
Man, they did a Sex Pistols cover. Who does that, you know? And
He wanted to bring name escapes me now. The guitar player for the Sex Pistols.
Steve Jones.
Thank you. But he wanted to bring him into play, and Steve said no.
Probably couldn't play it.
And he had to, he had to jump through a couple hoops and over a couple hurdles with Johnny Rotten or John Lydon. And he's like, "That's fine, but don't make it sound bad. Make sure you can sing it." And Dave was standing up there before, he goes, "Make sure I can sing it." Comparing their voices and whatnot, and he's like, well, "I can't do any worse, I don't think."
Oh man, there's a line in that song I think he got wrong, and I remember, I can't say what he says on the record, but he thought it went one way, which was like a female anatomy part, but it's actually something different. He doesn't realize like till a couple years later after he'd been out that, God, I listened and heard that wrong and sang it wrong on that. He's like, what do you do, you know? At the end of that song. So yeah, it's kind of funny. And then speaking of that, you know, yet Motley Crue did a cover of the Anarchy in the UK as well. And it's just like, well, you know, I love Crue, but there's just no comparison between those two. You know, I mean,
I like Crue's version, but yeah, there's no way of doing that. You talking about messing up lyrics? I heard when Slayer put out their Undisputed Attitude album, there's a bunch of punk covers. There's going to be a cover album, and then they put different stuff. They're going to do classic rock and everything, but they stuck to strictly punk. And so anyway, hook and mouth, I think, is what they're referring to in the back room.
we're just like, you know, stopped, huh?
Sorry about that. Our sound and booth and director are sitting here going,
We don't know what's
and I'm just kind of like, what?
This is a classy show, remember that.
Yeah. The crew in the booth is always telling you, you know, make sure you're doing it professional, make sure you're this and that, and they're sitting there making faces. But
At least they
I
have
got it right. They were referring to hook and mouth, which I got right. Mick would have got it right too, but his back's to him.
For a reason.
Yeah, yeah, for this purpose. Totally forgot where I was going now. Slayer's album, Undisputed Attitude, punk covers. Araya, when they did Guilty of Being White, that's all it ever says is the chorus is guilty of being white, ends with guilty of being white. And Araya changed it to guilty of being right. And I guess the leader, the guy who wrote the song, was just pissed.
Really? Wow.
He was pissed.
Well, now, why would he change the lyrics? Doesn't seem like Slayer would be that afraid of anybody.
Oh, no. I would say Slayer changed it just to cause a controversy. I mean, you got a song that's it's not really racist, but you're racial motivated, but you're going on and on, you know, guilty of being white, guilty of being white, and then all of a sudden, you know, guilty of being right, making it say like, oh, all the white people are right. And he says this, and dude was just ticked,
livid, miffed.
And then the funny thing is, everybody, you know, oh, Slayer are a bunch of racists. One's Cuban and one's El Salvador or Brazilian or something like that, or was at the time.
Yeah.
Araya, I believe, is Cuban, and Lombardo was South American.
Yeah, something like that. You know, Tom
and
Araya lately
Catholic or something.
Well, you know what? Isn't Araya's like a born-again Christian now, isn't he?
Is he? Maybe he's the Catholic.
I think he is. I think, and that kind of was like, to me, wow, you know. And you know, the funny thing is, what I was going to bring up is, so him and Mustaine are both born again, but I've never heard them really kind of push it out front.
No.
And really, music-wise, hasn't really changed a whole lot.
No.
I'm sure, you know, they're not. You know, Slayer's not putting out "God Hates Us All" and "God Sent Death" too much lately, but I mean they have in the past. So
right.
I kind of find that kind of weird how they maintain that religious perspective now, yet they have changed what they are. You know, Mustaine especially, I think it's got to be a weird shift to be, you know, whatever you are, amoral or, you know, maybe just not into it. Now you're a born again Christian. You know. In how you don't ingrain that into your music, because usually by definition when somebody does that, that's their whole thing is to, this is what I am now, now I have to get you involved.
Megadeth suddenly becomes Striper.
Yeah, Striper death, you know, Mega Striper. And you know, another funny thing that I kind of find about bands is, so Mustaine has always been kind of an angry individual, and this is what I'm saying, where they get their music from, their drive from, that's what they get the push from. When you become a rich rock star, and when you are now a born-again Christian, what do you got? What are you doing? You know, because he's not out there.
And he still writes the political songs, the irritated songs. You know, it's not, hey, I'm rich and God help me.
Yeah, so it's kind of a weird dynamic. It's like where, you know, it'd be interesting to ask him that exact question. Now, what's the inspiration instead of just plain anger?
Right.
Well, but then again, you know, maybe when he got over being in Metallica, he kind of shifted it to, you know, now I'm a Christian. You know, maybe that kind of
all the drama between all four. Really, I guess really the three.
Yeah.
Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, Anthrax is in there, but really they're kind of like the referee with everything. You know, now they all get along. Everybody's, you know, buddies and whatnot. That's going to bring us to our segment we call High Five. It's our 5 favorite in no particular order. It's not a top 5 list. It's just
maybe just a list.
Right. Exactly. Tonight's our five top Megadeth songs.
This was really tough, man. It really, this one could have easily been like a high 50. You know, I mean, there were so many. I had mentioned earlier the song "Liar" is just phenomenal. I love that song, and just the pace that it has, and just the subject matter. I think everybody knows. You know, God, you know, somebody's lying to you all the time. You know, Peace Cells. It's got to be in there.
Totally agree with you on that.
That opening bass line and the harmonizing guitars. It's just one of the greatest metal tunes ever. Third one I'd have to go with, and I forgot about this one until we were researching this, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, Go to Hell, Megadeth, which was actually supposed to be called Bill and Ted Go to Hell.
Right.
And they wrote that song for that, but then they changed the title, but they kept the song phenomenal. Oh, I love that song. Then I'm going to have to go with Good Morning Black Friday. I love that song, man. It's just so raw and just, how can you not love a song about a serial killer?
Right.
You know, walks out there and just well, today's your day. And then I'm going to have to say, might even be a little cliche, but Holy Wars.
Right.
I can't get enough of that song, and just the duel at the end between Marty and Dave, you know. But in actuality, there's so many more. I'd have to mention like Sweating Bullets, Black Curtains, Mechanics, 99 Ways to Die, their version of Paranoid. I mean, it could go on and on, man, but that's mine anyway.
I gotta agree with you with Peace Sells. I mean, one of the greatest thrash, one of the greatest metal songs, even songs ever written. It's at least in the top 20.
Yeah,
I would say. You know, I love their Kill the King.
A little bit later one.
Yeah, you know, it's at least I didn't pick Crush 'Em. Yeah.
It passed my mind.
Sweating Bullets.
That
the song, love the video, everything that has.
Another one where Dave is the only one featured in that video.
No, they're in there.
Are they in there?
Not as close as Dave is, but I mean, I believe it's Nick is huddled in the corner and kicking himself.
So another one where they had a $45 budget.
Right.
Said you guys can be in for exactly 8.5 seconds. You know.
We're gonna have you do this, 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 and this.
But don't tell anybody.
Right.
Or maybe it was one of those ones where everybody was equal, but they edited down to like 3 or 4 seconds, and those guys must have seen the final thing. Went, what the hell, man?
Dave just snuck into the editing station, did it himself. You know. I love their cover of the Sex Pistols' Problems.
That's a good one. That's off of Hidden Treasures.
Yep.
And that we're talking about Paranoid. Just that was literally one of their best CDs ever.
Yeah.
You know, and the funny thing about that is I got it for Christmas from my mom once, and and I wondered to myself when she gave it to me, and I loved it. What was she thinking going down the aisle? Oh, I think he might like this one, because I never mentioned anything about it, but I got that, and it was still have it to this day. I love that.
And last and not least, probably my favorite. This one holds a lot of meaning for me. Is a Tulaman.
Yeah.
You know, that has a lot of meaning. Just, and to me, when I first heard it off of Euthanasia, I'm like, this is different. You know, it's not something that he normally does. I've seen like behind the scenes of him learning French.
Yeah,
with some woman teaching him how to sing
is
it.
It like that? And you're like, no, you suck. It's funny you say that, because I had a friend of mine that spoke French, and I was like, you gotta listen to this Megadeth. What's he talking about? And she's like, I don't know. He's saying it wrong. You know, so I don't even think it's right. I think it's honestly it's goofy or something like that. Or maybe she didn't really speak French. You know.
Right. No, one of the coolest things that I think he's ever done, Dave Mustaine. You know, nowadays everybody's making beer. Iron Maiden has the Trooper. You know, well, we all know Sammy Hagar has his tequila.
Not anymore. He sold it.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. Started his tequila. Vince Neil makes tequila and now makes vodka.
And wine.
And wine. And Dave Mustaine made coffee. He had his own blend of coffee.
That's right.
Which then made a second blend, a third blend, and then his wife or his daughter had like hot chocolate, and it was one of the coolest. And then Benante from Anthrax was involved. I think it was Goldberg the wrestler had his own deal. It was some of the coolest stuff. I got like mugs with the Dave Mustaine logo. I got the mug for Benante, which is funny because it's like just a big drum set and you just see the silhouette of a dude holding sticks up. Some of the best coffee I'd ever seen, or ever tasted, I should say, ever had. And I don't know why it ended some way on a business level. When I met Dave Mustaine at his book signing, I'm like, what happened to the coffee? Dude, the coffee, what happened to the coffee? You see, I have some of it now. And he's like, oh, you know, he's going this big spiel about the business side. It was like, I think it was like almost like slave labor growing it. And just, he had to stop. And I'm like, oh, this was one of the coolest things in the world. I mean, kids could buy this and it would have been cool, you know? But on that note, once again, this is Metal Dude. I'm your host, Chuck Parnell. We're having technical difficulties, so my Ren can't answer, but that's Mick Rotella. Take care, mentally defective ones.